Going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you consume this podcast. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you guys very, very much. We are pushing hard to get that subscriber count up on the audio side. So if you could do me a favor, and if you want to support this show and you happen to watch this on the YouTube side, which I know a lot of you do, if you could do me a real quick solid, simply pause the video, go to your phone, your laptop, wherever you could type in a podcast, Talking Buffalo, and go to Spotify or Apple, wherever, and just hit that follow button. It really helps us continue to grow this show. Big shout out to both our sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, and also Imperial Pizza, 1655 Main Street near Canisius College, and also 1035 Aber Road, deep in the heart of South Buffalo. Appreciate both of them. Get out there and support these two great businesses who do a lot to help support this show. All right, folks, this is our Friday podcast. Buffalo Bills travel to Miami, Hard Rock Stadium, to face the Miami Dolphins this Sunday. This is our Bills-Dolphins preview. We'll talk about both teams a little bit. I'm going to give you, as I always do, 3 keys to a Buffalo Bills victory. And spoiler alert, it's not just get off the plane and show up to the field. A little bit more detailed than that. So 3 keys to a Bills victory, 5 bowl predictions, and ultimately at the end, a final score prediction for this game. And here's a spoiler alert. I'll tell you right at the top, I ain't picking against the Buffalo Bills. We all know that. The question is, do they cover on the road the 9.5 point spread? Pretty large spread for this football game. And I get why. Because the Buffalo Bills are 6-2. The Miami Dolphins have only won 2 games this year. They are an absolute, pardon the French, clusterfuck of a football team and of an organization right now. It is just very, very ugly in Miami on the field and off the field. The Buffalo Bills have utterly dominated Miami now since 2019. The Bills have won 12 of their last 13 meetings. 12 of their last 13. The dominance is insane. And you would have to be, well, you'd have to be around my age to go back to the last time where one team dominated the other so thoroughly and for such an extended period of time. For some young people who may not know this, the Miami Dolphins went the entire 70s decade without losing a single time to the Buffalo Bills. 20 in a row the Bills dropped to Miami before they finally broke through in 1980. Home opener, Rich Stadium, and the fans literally tore the goalpost down. What a wild scene that was. But anyway, today's modern age, 12 of the last 13 for the Buffalo Bills. And that one loss was that 21-19 game back in 2022 where everybody on the Bills was getting hurt in that game. And it was like 10,000 degrees, that sweltering heat. Only time Miami has managed to beat the Bills. I'll say this is their second time meeting this season, and Miami, to their credit, did play the Buffalo Bills pretty tough back in week 2. The Bills won that game 31-21, but if you can remember, this game was tied actually halfway through the fourth quarter, and the Bills went up, and it wasn't ultimately decided until pretty late in the game, very late in the game actually, where Tua, who had, I would say, played at least reasonably well in this football game, did what he does way too often, and that is throw an untimely, ugly, telegraphed interception. Terrell Bernard, the beneficiary, picks it off. The Bills add on a field goal at the end. For all intents and purposes, that was the football game. But Miami was there, man. They were hanging until the very end. Now, this has been a team, again, Miami, who's just been disastrous. They just fired their GM over the past week, Mike McDaniel, who, God, he's got to feel like, I don't care what they say, he's a lame duck coach. They're keeping him to the rest of the regular season. And honestly, as a Bills fan, a Bills content creator, I'm happy. One of my biggest concerns when they lost, their last outing was last Thursday, so they are on a little bit of an extended rest here. But when they lost to Baltimore, my big concern going into this, as it pertains to the Buffalo Bills, was, man, they're going to clean house. They're going to fire their GM. They're going to fire their head coach. They did fire Greer, the GM, but McDaniel stays. And I'm happy about that because I don't think he's a good head coach, and I just don't think his team believes in him, quite frankly. But my concern was they fire McDaniel and you get a new head coach, and you know how they go. Sometimes that reinvigorates the troops. They rally. Hey, it's like a clean slate. We didn't play bad. We don't suck. It was all the head coach. And they go on. They got a new attitude, and maybe they play with a renewed sense of purpose. And, you know, you get Miami's best shot with a new coach. Well, that did happen. Mike McDaniel is still the head coach. Honestly, I don't know what's up with this football team. Like, in terms of the trade deadline, like, I'm still a little befuddled why they didn't basically do what the New York Jets did and kind of reset and build for the future. We'll get to Miami in a few minutes. Regarding the Buffalo Bills, before we get to, again, the 3 keys to victory and 5 bold predictions for the game, in terms of injuries, because obviously, especially when you're playing an inferior team, the injury report is always the most concerning part. Kind of a mixed bag here. As we record this mid-afternoon on Thursday, the Bills have practiced. The official injury report hasn't been released as of this recording. However, media on hand for the media viewing portion of practice, so we got a lot of information for that. Some good news, some bad news. Certainly better than it looked on Wednesday, where it felt like half the team was a DNP, did not participate. Good news, James Cook, Joey Bosa, Daquan Jones, Josh Palmer, Teron Johnson, Terrell Bernard, all practiced at the very least, on a limited basis. We got to watch a couple of videos, and among the ones that I saw that kind of stood out was Teron Johnson, who missed the Kansas City game last week. I believe it was with a groin injury. He hurt that at practice last Friday. Sal Capaccio tweeted out a video. He was hopping up and down. He looked really good. So based on that video, I'd be stunned to not see Teron Johnson back. I think it's a good sign that Josh Palmer, who was limited late last week, has been limited at least on Wednesday and Thursday, so that's trending well. Bernard was limited Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see how that goes. The 2 big ones, though, James Cook and Joey Bosa, both of them were DNP on Wednesday. They both returned to practice, at least again, in some capacity from what we could tell on Thursday. Did see in a video, I think it was Matt Beauvais who had the video. I'm not sure who it was. But anyway, Joey Bosa's wrist, because he hurt his wrist, he had like a club hand. So we'll see if that's just for practice, if he's going to be playing some games with basically only one hand because of the club casting or whatever it was on him. That was noticeable, but it was good at least that he was out there and that he was practicing. James Cook, from what I understand from media stuff, didn't really see too much with him, but kind of got it going on a little more as practice went on. From what they saw, he did get his ankle taped. But again, him just being out there is certainly a good sign. Even if he doesn't end up playing on Sunday, the fact that he's out there in a limited capacity now is good news towards this not being a potential like multiple week injury. So that's the good stuff. Bad news on the injury front is Shaq Thompson, who also didn't practice on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday, didn't play last week with a hamstring. AJ Epinesa with concussion symptoms, did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday. And probably the biggest one here, Christian Benford, who was limited on Wednesday, did not practice at all on Thursday. I believe he's got a groin issue. And from what I've seen, and I could be wrong, but from what I've seen this season with the Bills, anyone who's been a DNP on Thursday has not played in a game all season long on Sunday. So if you go by that formula, really good chance you don't see Shaq Thompson, AJ Epinesa, or Christian Benford in this football game. AJ Epinesa, he's played great. We'll get to him actually in a second. I got a pretty cool stat with him, but If he can't play, I'm fine, especially considering an opponent giving Landon Jackson some run. Christian Benford, if he don't go, Max Saracen, who has played the last two games, his first two games, kind of platoon, split reps with Trey White. Well, guess what, folks? No Christian Benford means Max Saracen will be in line for his first career NFL start at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. So that's your injury news. As for the team, and again, this series between Miami, what more can you say about the way Josh Allen has played against the Miami Dolphins? Literally has owned this team going back to 2019, his second year in the league. 13 games against Miami. Josh has thrown 35 touchdown passes and just 5 interceptions. That's ridiculous. A 112.8 quarterback rating against this team. He's only been sacked 19 times in 13 games against Miami. He completed nearly 68% of his passes, 11.5 yards per completion. 2 rushing touchdowns as well against him. So 37 total touchdowns, 5 interceptions in 13 games, and a 12-1 record as a starter. So Josh has just cooked the Miami Dolphins. And speaking of cook, Josh really hasn't needed to own many teams this year, the reigning MVP, because that Bills running game has just been special. It is literally right now, the Buffalo Bills running game is literally the best in the entire National Football League. 161.5 yards per game rushing. They're best in football. 4th in yards per carry at 5.2. Again, even though teams know now that the Bills are running the football a lot, they're still averaging over 5 yards per carry. They're second best in EPA per rush. Any way you look at it, this rushing game has just been absolutely special. The passing game has been, keyed by Dalton Kincaid, who we'll talk about a little bit later. Khalil Shakir has been solid. And then it's kind of been a little bit of a mixed bag. Josh Palmer's had a little, couple moments here and there. Elijah Moore's done a couple good things. Keon Coleman had a great game in week 1. He's disappeared literally since. But, the wide receivers haven't done much. They haven't needed to because, again, in part, this rushing game has just been really good. On defense, the Bills have been they've certainly been inconsistent. The back seven especially, although that secondary has looked a lot better since Jordan Poyer starts, since Max Saracen's getting run, since Jordan Hancock's getting run. It seems like the best of Cole Bishop is being brought out, especially in Kansas City. Fun stat, if you missed it yesterday, I threw it out there, did some research. Cole Bishop had 4 pass breakups against the Chiefs. Y'all know that. What you might not have known is that last season, Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp had 5 pass breakups combined for the entire season, including the playoffs. Cole Bishop had 1 less than both of them combined just last Sunday alone. But all in all, it's been a pretty suspicious kind of defense. But the front four's played well. The pass rush specifically has been really, really good, and they've done it without blitzing much. I saw a stat on ESPN Next Gen Stats. 37.4 pressure rate for the Bills when sending 4 or less guys. That's second best in the NFL, and their 9.4 sack percentage rate is third best, again, when sending 4 or less. Flipping over to PFF and their pass rush productivity statistic. I mentioned A.J. Epinesa earlier. Didn't realize how effective he's been as a pass rusher. 12.2 pass rush productivity grade. Folks, that is 4th best in the entire NFL among all qualified edge defenders. Qualified meaning they've played at least 20% of their team snaps for the season. He's 4th best in the NFL right now. Joey Bosa has been right behind him, 11.2, which is tied for 7th. Bosa's got 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. He has been a force. He's also been mistake prone, and we've seen that from time to time, but he more than makes up for it. He's been really, really good. And Greg Rousseau's been no slouch either. He's got a 9.1 pass rush productivity, which is 26th best. Again, though, Joey Bosa particularly has been great this season. Brandon Thorne, a much-respected guru when it comes to, the trenches, both sides of the ball. He's got a chart that measures edge rusher pass true pressure rate. And Joey Bosa is tied for 5th. So this is a front four that could get at you. Deion Walker has been really, really solid. I saw the Athletic had a midseason all-rookie team. He was on this. It's been a great start for him, and he's going to need to continue to step up, of course, with no Ed Oliver and no Michael Hoyt. So a good pass rushing defense for the Bills, and hopefully now, like I said, with Hairston out there, with Bishop getting better, with Poyer out there, that this secondary gets better. Although, again, no Christian Benford potentially against Miami, not exactly a great thing. Anyways, take a quick break. Come back on the other side, and we're going to get into Miami. Then we'll get into 3 keys to a Bills victory and some bold predictions. Oh boy, the Miami Dolphins. 2 wins on the season, and just, it's not even that they're not good. Like, I'm saying this if I were a Miami fan and how frustrated I would be. And I'm friends with some people on Twitter that are Miami fans. I lived in Florida for 5.5 years. I know plenty of Miami Dolphins fans. Very frustrated. But at least, like say with the New York Jets, like the New York Jets absolutely suck. But they kind of know who they are right now. Maybe they did a couple of weeks ago, but they looked in the mirror and came to grips with what they are. And they basically decided this last week to reset. They traded Quinnen Williams. They traded Sauce Gardner, which, by the way, I know the Colts, they're having a great season. And Sauce Gardner is a very good to great corner, but I still think 2 first picks was an overpay. Good on the Jets is my point. The Jets know who they are. They're restarting. They got all these draft picks coming up. They still got some pretty good young players on offense. They know what they are. The thing with the Miami Dolphins to me is they feel aimless. Like this is a directionless, aimless franchise. And yes, they did finally fire Chris Guerrero, but it's not nearly enough. Mike McDaniel still having a job to me tells me that Miami just doesn't, they're not all in, they're not committed to winning because it is obvious whether you're on the inside, and I've talked to people on the inside involved in Miami, or whether you're just an outside casual fan. They just don't look like a team that wants to run through a wall for their head coach. Jordan Poyer has talked relatively openly about kind of sort of that when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. It's just a different vibe, a different culture. And he's going to be the coach for at least the rest of this year. Maybe they're tanking. I don't know. But here's the thing. I'm surprised that they didn't, like the Jets, that they didn't reset as well. They had an opportunity to really pick up some solid future assets on the trade deadline, and they chose not to. Now, I'm not even saying Jalen Waddle because I know that was the big name, and I certainly know that the Bills were interested in Jalen Waddle. I know that for a fact. But I'm okay with them not trading Jalen Waddle. If I'm Miami, I'm talking about here. But there are other guys, Bradley Chubb, Minka Fitzpatrick. Like, how do you not go get assets for those guys? They carried value. Maybe Zach Zeiler. You go and you could get good, solid future assets for those guys. They got a 3rd rounder for Jalen Phillips. They could have gotten a lot of draft capital, something for trades, and they decided not to. So I don't know. They got an issue with that. They got the big Tua problem. How that plays out this offseason, I don't know. But what I do know is pick your poison because, it's not like they're good on offense and great on defense, or great on defense, but they suck on offense. The Miami Dolphins, I love my term. I got to use it here. They're booty cheeks on both sides of the football. I mean, they suck almost equally on both sides of the fence. Team offense, 27th in yards per game, 20th in yards per play, 26th in EPA per play, 23rd passing yards per game, 23rd EPA per pass, 25th EPA per rush. So they suck running the ball and they suck throwing the ball. Individually, Tua, of course, leads the charge. He has been an absolute freaking disaster. He stinks. 15 touchdowns, but he's got 11 interceptions on the season, which is tied with Geno Smith of the Raiders for the most in the NFL entering this week. A minus 20.9 EPA, so that's 26 in the league. And it's not like he's getting pressured a shitload, man. He's only been getting pressured on 26.9% of his dropbacks, which is only 27th most in the league. Translation, hot garbage. That's what he is. He is hot garbage. And if his play on the field's not bad enough, how could you take this guy serious as your leader? He is always making excuses. You see it on social media every week. You see it on ESPN, pointing the fingers at his height, players missing meetings. He is just an excuse maker, and he might say it afterwards, but he doesn't have any real accountability. Can you imagine, no matter how much his teammates let him down, I don't give a shit if Keon Coleman drops 8 passes in a game, if James Cook fumbles 4 times, and if the defense can't stop anyone to save their lives, and the Bills lose 40-0. Josh Allen is not going to blame them. Josh Allen is going to say that he needs to be better. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. He will take the burden of a team failure and put it on his shoulder, because that's what a quarterback, a real one and a real leader, does. Tua ain't about that shit, and he's never been about that shit, and he ain't gonna be about that shit. That's just what it is. And if you're Miami, whoever that next GM is, you got to find a way to get him out of there. If you could trade him and it takes you paying a nice portion of that money and, attaching draft assets to it to get someone to take on his contract, that's what you got to do. And if you can't, cut him. Cut him anyway. Denver did it with Russ Wilson a couple years ago. They ate a gazillion dollars. They ate the national debt worth of dead money to get rid of Russ Wilson. And it's worked out for them in a couple years. They got a decent rookie who's improving. They moved beyond that. Denver was a playoff team last year. You could get past that. Miami, if you're serious about winning, Stephen Ross, you got to do the same. He sucks. He's hot garbage. You know who's not hot garbage, though? Devon Achane. That cat could play. He's anything but hot garbage. 606 rushing yards. He's averaging 5 yards a carry. He's got like 18 runs of 10 or more yards, which is tied for 5th in the NFL, and a dude could fly. I think I saw a stat. He's got like 40 runs of 15 miles per hour or more, which is most in the NFL. He's great, and he can catch the ball. He's dangerous out of the backfield as well. And then you got Jalen Waddle. He's a star. He's a great player. I can't imagine what he would be with a better quarterback, Josh Allen. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. 41 catches, 586 yards, which I believe is 10th in the NFL in receiving yards. He's averaging 14.3 yards per carry, 7th best in receiving EPA. But that's about it right now, especially with Tyreek Hill done, with Darren Waller, who looked really good for a few weeks, and now he's hurt already. He's out. He's done. That's it for that offense. I mean, you look out for Malik Washington, Nick Westbrook, Kenny, but not a lot of danger on that Miami offense. And then the defense, like I said, no better. 24th in yards per game allowed, 343 yards per game. They're surrendering 28th in yards per play, 29th in EPA per play, 28th in yards per play, 29th in EPA per pass. They're no better against the rush. They're 30th in rush defense. They're giving up 145 yards per game. So the top rushing attack in the NFL is going to play the 3rd worst rushing defense in the NFL. 28th in rushing yards per play, 23rd in EPA per play. Boy, there's a lot of rankings there in the 20s, aren't there, with this defense? Give them one, though. They're all the way up to 18th in quarterback pressure rate at 34.4. Incredibly, I've criticized the Bills because they just don't ever seem to get interceptions this year. Max Searson had an interception against the Chiefs last week. That's the only interception that a Bills cornerback has this entire football season. The Bills as a team only have 4 interceptions in 8 games. But guess what? That is 4 times more than the Miami Dolphins have. The Miami Dolphins as a team have 1 interception this entire season. Is just nuts. They're just not good. They're not really good at anything on defense. I mean, Zach Seiler's still pretty solid at defensive tackle. I don't know if he's still running over punters. That was a big penalty when the Bills played them, by the way, in week 2, is roughing the punter penalty. That was big in that football game. So anyway, he's decent. Jordan Brooks, Tyrell Dodson, old friend, they're gamers at linebacker. Even if I think they're a little bit limited, that secondary is just a cluster, is a disaster. And that includes to some extent Minka Fitzpatrick, who's we'll say he's having a very forgettable season, which tends to happen when a player signs a big deal or gets traded to Miami and they go play on that defense. They just tend to have forgettable years. Ask your boy Jordan Poyer about that. Name me a player on this Miami defense in their secondary, and I'll name you a guy who gives up 100 or better quarterback rating when targeting. Is so brutal. All right, let's take one more quick break. Come back on the other side. I'm going to give you my 3 keys to a Bills win and 5 bold predictions and a final score pick. 3 keys to a Buffalo Bills victory, and I'm going to take the high road. I'm not going to be that lazy to say just show up and win. I mean, this is the NFL, and I hate to say it this way, but hey, man, Carolina, who saw Carolina losing at home by 31 to the Bills, coming back the next week and going to Green Bay and winning at Lambeau Field, right? So you never know. You never know. You gotta at least show up. You gotta play the game. 3 keys. Number 1, do not allow yourself to get Atlanta'd again. You're like, what? Go get Atlanta'd? What are you talking about, man? Well, I'll tell you. The Atlanta Falcons have a left-armed, timing-based, pretty immobile quarterback that has 2 enormous weapons that Buffalo Bills fans now know very, very well. Bijan Robinson, Drake London. That's pretty much all they got, especially in that Buffalo game where their 3rd and 4th receivers didn't even play. That's all they have. And you know what? They killed the Buffalo Bills defense. The Bills knew who they were. The Bills knew that they needed to stop them, and they didn't. Not by a long shot. Bijan Robinson, 19 carries for 170 yards rushing, including that 81-yard spectacular touchdown along the sidelines, barely touched. Drake London. Oh, by the way, Bijan also had 6 catches for 88 yards as well. I mean, that's kind of worth mentioning, isn't it? Drake London, meanwhile, 10 catches for 158 yards and a touchdown. And he was a half yard short, a few inches short of having 2 touchdowns. The Bills knew about their 2 star players and were helpless to do anything about it. Well, you look at the Miami Dolphins, it's the same thing. Tua is an immobile, timing-based quarterback who has 2 supreme weapons at his disposal in Devon Achane and Jaylen Waddle. You know they're going to feature them. You know those are the 2 guys that could really hurt you and make it a long day for this defense. Stop them. Do what you got to do to stop them. Have a safety high on Jaylen Waddle all day. Double team him every play if you have to. Find ways to get guys up, run blitzing, whatever it's going to be. Make other guys beyond Achane or Jaylen Waddle beat you. That's my top key for this game, 100%. Next one. Very obvious one. Josh Allen needs to continue being daddy to the Miami Dolphins. You see that all the time where Josh Allen is the daddy to Miami. They're just his little child. He owns them. No reason for that to not continue. Again, Josh Allen, 12-1 against them, completed nearly 70% of his passes, 37 total touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. Just stay in daddy mode because they do not have the answers to stop Josh Allen. And James Cook may or may not play. The Bills may or may not try to run the ball a lot. Miami may or may not sell out to stop the Bills' vaunted top-ranked rushing attack. But whether they do or whether they don't, this just feels like a Josh Allen type game. And then my last key will stick with the offense. We talk about the wide receiver train all the time. My guy, Jeremy Whitey WGR, inventor of the wide receiver train. Choo-choo. Well, you know what? How about a key to this game? Let's keep that tight end train rolling along. Keep that chugging. Keep the tight end train chugging along. Miami is just 27th in defending tight ends. They're giving up like 6 catches for 68 yards a game, 13.9 yards per reception. Saw a stat on ESPN Next Gen. Miami's giving up 82.6 completion percentage to tight ends and a 63.8 success rate, which is 3rd worst in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Bills' position of strength in the passing game pretty much all year has been the tight ends. In fact, this past Sunday against the Chiefs, the Bills' tight ends combined for 123 yards receiving in the first half. ESPN Next Gen says Josh Allen has a 78.2 completion percentage and 11.2 yards per attempt when targeting the tight ends. And I don't care if it's Jordan Brooks or Tyrell Dodson in coverage. I don't care if it's Micah Fitzpatrick or Ashton Davis or Melvin Fondu, if he's even playing in this game. He's been injured. Whoever the hell it is at safety, it don't matter. They cannot cover the Bills' tight ends, and I see no reason for the Bills' tight ends, Kincaid, Knox, and Jackson Oz, no reason for them to not have a big day. So there's your 3 keys as far as I'm concerned. Do not get Atlanta'd. Josh Allen, just continue being daddy and keep the tight end train chugging along. 5 bowl predictions for this game. I've barely mentioned him this episode. I've talked about him plenty. You've talked about him plenty. You've heard plenty. You've read plenty about Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, monster opener, 8 catches for $114 and a touchdown, looked supreme against the Ravens. After that, you have gotten 7 games of, for the most part, nothing. 7 games of almost nothing. 7 games worth of criticism, a benching to start the game along the way on Keon's part. Lots of things to be very critical when it comes to Keon. And I almost don't think you could be overcritical when it comes to this guy because, listen, since that first game, Keon Coleman has averaged 3 catches for 24 yards per game and just 1 touchdown in his last 7. That's not a tiny little sample size. That's not struggling for a game or 2 or 3. That is 7 games. 7 games where he is averaging less than 25 yards receiving. And this is a guy who is playing more than 70% of the snaps, and he's averaging less than 25 yards receiving per game. That is utterly, and I mean utterly unacceptable. I don't care what Sean McDermott or Joe Brady or any coach or Brandon Beane says. He is your top playing receiver, top snap percentage wide receiver out there, and he is giving you nothing in the passing game. He could block in the running game. Great. So can Tyrell Shavers, okay? Come on. Stop. Anyway, this game, Jack Jones is on one side. Either Ethan Bonner or Jason Marshall is going to be on the other. Certainly it doesn't look like Rasul Douglas is going to play. And even if he did, who cares? If there was ever a time where Keon Coleman is going to bust out, this feels like a great week to do it. It's important for a lot of reasons. Confidence may be playing a role in what's going on, whether it's Joe Brady's confidence to call plays more to him, whether it's Josh Allen trusting to throw the ball to him. A big game will go a long way, I think, towards rectifying that. I feel like since the Bills made no move at the trade deadline, not for a lack of trying, but they didn't go get another receiver, unless you're going to count on a hobbled, who knows what version of Gabe Davis you're going to get to come in and take those reps at that X-boundary position, you need more from Keon Coleman. You need him to be right. Physically right, mentally right, emotionally right, whatever you want to call it. This is a great week for him to kickstart that. So I'm going to say a big game coming for Keon Coleman. I'm also going to say prediction 2, bold, only because he's only done it once this season, but I think Josh Allen is going to throw for over 300 yards. Look, it's time for the repeat MVP push to commence in this football game. Maybe Miami really sells out to try to stop the run, whether it's Cook or not, or Davis or not, and just opportunities galore against a really weak secondary for Josh to put up some great numbers. So 300 yards for him. Cam Lewis interception. That's my bold prediction number 3. Now, I don't even know if he's going to start. Doesn't even look like he's going to, because if Teron can go, he starts. But whether it's the dime roll or he gets in at some point during the game, maybe a little safety look, something, I sense in my bones a Cam Lewis interception. My bold prediction, the one negative one I have towards the Bills, I just feel like they've been annoying on special teams. Dumb penalties. They seem like they're always getting penalties on special teams. A couple other little things here and there, but the one thing they haven't done is completely blow a coverage. That's coming. This game. They're overdue for a terrible special teams coverage blunder, which results in Malik Washington, who could be dangerous returning kicks. Whether it's a kick return or a punt return, he's going to take one to the house. And then the last one, I'll give you a feel-good special team thing here. Matt Prater missed a 52-yard field goal off the goalpost that would have iced the game against the Chiefs at the end. He'll redeem himself a little bit. 52 or longer yard field goal for Matt Prater. Why the hell not? So there you go. There's my 5 bold predictions. A big game from Keon, 300 yards or more from Josh, a Cam Lewis pick, a Bills special team blunder that results in getting scored on, and a 52 or yard or longer field goal from Matt Prater. All right, final score pick time. Look, I'm no different than any of you, especially, with Tyreek Hill gone and Darren Waller not playing. The only thing that concerns me about this game, is that dreaded old trap game scenario. We hear it all the time, trap game. This feels like one. It certainly has the makings. The Bills seemingly are back. Struggled early, went through that lull, come off the bye. They beat Carolina. They beat Kansas City for a 5th straight season. Things are looking great. They're going into an inferior opponent's home stadium. It just kind of feels that way. Like, not only are the Bills the better team on paper, better team on the field, but like we talked about, the Dolphins are just a freaking mess, man. They really are. And the Bills have a lot of injuries. And considering that they're playing Miami, they may exercise an overabundance of caution with a couple of these key guys that are hurt. And they're just going to assume that they can beat Miami, without taking any chances on any of these players. And then last but not least, you look ahead. Part of a trap game is when you look ahead. And the following week, the Bills may have their eyes a little bit on Tampa, who will be a very stiff test. Tampa's a good team, man. They're going to be a stiff test for the Bills the following week in Orchard Park. Yeah, you add all that up. It's a trap game. But that said, I just don't see it happening, dudes. I just don't see it happening, man. Now, I don't expect Miami to necessarily just roll over and play dead. I don't. But if the Bills get out to a 2-score lead in the first quarter, the floodgates could get open. It could get really ugly. I would say the Boo Birds are going to come flying at Hard Rock Stadium, but we all know what's going to be the real there. That's going to be a 70% Buffalo Bills Mafia takeover in that stadium anyway, so it's probably going to be rocking. But I can see it. If they get down early, they quit. Mike McDaniel just sits there, looks befuddled. Then he has a post-game press conference where what he's saying is barely even fucking legible. We've seen it before. Might see it again. But I do expect them to be pesky in this game. Enough to keep it at least pretty interesting. All right? Now, that said, again, Buffalo's the better team. They know they can't lose this game. We might be worried about a trap game. I don't know that the Bills are worried about a trap game. They know they cannot afford. If you want to be the number 1 seed, or hell, even if you want to stay neck and neck with New England right now, you cannot lose a divisional game too, nonetheless, against the Miami Dolphins. You just can't do it. And they won't. They won't. The only question to me is, will they cover the spread? So it's like, all right, well, can Miami beat Buffalo straight up? Will they beat them straight up? And I'm like, shit, that's not going to happen. But can they cover the spread? 9.5 is a lot of points to give on the road. I still say yes. Yes, and then some. I got Bills 34, Miami Dolphins 16. So 34-16. That's my score pick. Game Sunday, 1 p.m. Want to let you know, 9 p.m. Sunday, I will be live. Joe from Queens. We're going to wait till 9 p.m. to do our live reaction show. So we'll react to the good, the bad, the ugly of this game. Like I said, Joe from Queens, always one of the more fun and often volatile episodes that we have. So that'll be on Sunday. One last quick thing. Check. And again, this is another reason why I say, make sure you're subscribed. YouTube, Spotify, Apple as well on the audio side. I might do a bonus Saturday episode this week because I've gotten so many great, with the trade deadline, a lot of other things going on, so many great questions, comments, and takes from fans, whether it's on the YouTube channel page, whether it's emails, Twitter, a couple on the Facebook side. I kept thinking as these are coming in, I'm like, you know what? I think we could put together a really fun pod bag type episode where I respond to all your questions, comments, and takes. So if I get an opportunity on Friday, if I get an opportunity on Friday, I'm going to put that out, a bonus episode on Saturday. But whether that's there or not, like I said, we will be live 9 p.m. Joe from Queens on Sunday. Thank you very much for watching, for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a good weekend. Talk to you guys soon.